Hello, hello. Welcome back once again. Vaults Remastered. We're taking a look at Pathfinder basic actions that you can use on your turn. There are 16 different ones in the player core, the remastered version. I have put together the 13 videos. This is video 13 because I've condensed a couple of them into one video. But this is action 13, and that is taking cover. So this is the final video in this series of basic actions on your turn. What is action 13, taking cover? Well, it's a single action. Requirements: you're benefiting from cover, so you have to have some cover already. Or you're near some sort of obstacle feature, wall, pillar, table, something that allows you to take cover. Or you are prone. So you have to have one of those scenarios in order to take cover behind said cover or be lying prone. Now, one thing about lying prone is that this was the one part of that action, in my opinion, that was worth it was, hey, I can take cover without having some sort of obstacle or barrier between me and the people shooting me. But other than that, I don't, you know, I talked all about that action, how I wasn't sure what was going on there. But anyway, let's take a look at what take cover does. So it says you press yourself against the wall, you duck behind an obstacle, you're trying to take better advantage of cover. I'm going to talk about what cover is in a second. In case you're not sure, there are some specific mechanics and rules around that. If you would have normally what's called standard cover, so there's some decent obstacle like a little wall or whatever, and you take cover as the action, it boosts you up to greater cover, which is a better +4 bonus to your AC. Standard cover is just +2. I have that chart on the next slide in a second. It also gives you a bonus to your reflex saves against like area effects. So somebody, let's say, is throwing a fireball or something like that at you. And it gives you the bonus to stealth checks if you're trying to hide, take the sneak action, or otherwise, avoid getting detected. Otherwise, you have the benefits of just standard regular cover, which is the +2. And this is going to last until you move from your current space, you use an attack action, you become unconscious, or end this effect as a free action. And kind of taking this last little bit here and going back to my comments or my thoughts on the crawl action, one of the things there that I was a little bit confused or I thought would be, or I was unsure of the benefits of taking cover as prone is what was like the main thing I was thinking that I would even want to become prone. But I wasn't sure if each time I moved, I was crawling and I was prone, did I have to keep taking cover at the end of each of those, moves? Because that was my concern, is that crawling was so slow in the first place. And if my only benefit was I can get prone and take cover, well, hopefully that cover lasts as I'm crawling. But if you read this, it seems like that is not the case. It says that your cover, this take cover, lasts until you move from your current space. So if you have dropped prone to crawl to get the cover, so drop prone is an action, crawling is an action, taking cover is an action according to this. If that's the case, that's your three actions. And if you start to move on your next turn, you'd have to take cover again in order to benefit. Now, as the GM adjudicating that, I would probably just say, hey, if you're crawling and staying prone, you can take cover for free. To me, I wouldn't make you spend multiple actions just to do that. It wouldn't make sense. But see that video I was talking about on crawl. That was like a week or so ago. Go ahead and take a look at that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't subscribed to the channel. That's why. Go back, subscribe to the channel while we're talking about this. Go look at that video. Go look at the whole playlist of all these basic actions here in Pathfinder, and look at that one specifically to see my thoughts there. All right, so there you go. That is taking cover. You can edit as a free action, it says, so you don't have to stay taking cover. All right, so let's continue then. How do we adjudicate, or what are some of the issues you might run into with this action? So in GM Core page 28, this is where some of the specific information about taking cover comes out, and some gray areas here. You often have to determine whether someone can take cover. So it's obvious if there's a wall or a pillar, yeah, they can take cover, but can they take cover behind a chair? Can they take cover behind another person? Behind a tapestry, behind a broken door? I mean, you're gonna have to judge this as the GM. They usually just need something big enough that they can, kind of cover their frame with. So the other thing you might want to consider there is how big is the character. If there's some 7, 8 foot tall, huge dude, Taking cover behind a small kitchen chair is probably not going to work, right? You might give them some cover, but not greater cover for sure. Then it goes on to say, imagine the picture, this character crouching. Picture whether or not they could be seen in just normal circumstances. I think as long as you're able to explain to a player, they're not going to, fuss with you. I think as long as you give them something, you can have lesser cover. But taking cover might also require them to drop prone, which I've already mentioned that a couple times. Because they want to take cover like under the table, sure, you can have to drop prone, or they want to take cover behind a small little, bump in a ditch or something like that, sure. But most of the time, you can let them combine taking cover with whatever that other action, like the drop prone, like I was already mentioning. All right, then there's three types of cover. Already talked about standard and greater. So the way this is working, if you go back to the action, it says if you have standard cover and then you take cover, you can get it to upgrade to greater cover. So that's what this is referring to. So standard cover would be your typical, again, sort of a wall, there's a pillar, there's a door, something like that. They're able to fully, mask their body behind, and it's, sturdy enough to take a blow, let's say. That's standard cover. If they then take cover behind it, that then elevates to greater cover. So you can take cover without taking the action. You just need to move your character behind the cover itself. But if you want to take cover to get even better benefits, then you have to spend that action to get it up to greater cover. So I think greater cover only applies if there's standard cover already, and then you actually do this action. So there's no such thing, from what I'm understanding here, as different types of cover, like, oh, the door is standard cover, but the wall is greater cover. I don't think that's the way it works. I think it's cover is standard cover for the most part, and you can elevate it to greater by taking this action. That's the way I'm understanding how this works. If I'm wrong, please go ahead and comment down below or correct me or show me where in the book it describes exactly what's going on here. But that's what I'm interpreting here. And then there's this idea of lesser cover, which was not mentioned anywhere in the actual action itself. So, what the heck is lesser cover versus standard cover? What's going on with that? Let's take a look at Player Core 424 cover, where it defines some of these terms. When you're behind an obstacle that could block weapons, guard you against explosions, make you harder to detect, you're behind cover. Standard cover, which is what we're describing here, gives you the +2 bonus to the AC, reflex saves, and the stealth checks to hide, sneak, or otherwise avoid detection. You can increase that to greater cover using the take cover action, which we've already talked about, takes you up to +4. And then here's where this gray area is. If cover is especially light, typically when it's provided by a creature, you have lesser cover, which grants a +1 circumstance bonus to AC. A creature with standard cover or greater cover can attempt to use stealth to hide, but lesser cover isn't sufficient. So again, that's kind of one of these gray areas. I guess you're going to have to just picture in your head, if you could see the legs and the arms or whatever of somebody that, there's something they're hiding behind, well, then that would be lesser cover. Or maybe it's just really thin, it's like a tarp or, something like that. It's really not the greatest of cover. It's not going to protect you from arrows or something like that very well. So that might fall under lesser cover. So exactly what lesser cover is, that's kind of up to the GM, it sounds like. And then standard covers, that's probably the easiest to explain. And then the greater cover is not a thing, it's a status almost that you enter by taking that action, take cover. And that's actually pretty good, right? +4 AC, +4 to reflex saves against area effects, +4 on stealth. You can also hide if you're behind that. So I think that's a pretty good action to take on your turn, especially if it's your third action, especially if you're like a sneaky person or someone with low armor class, like let's say a wizard. You use your 2 actions to cast a spell. Let's say, hey, what do I do with my third action? Take cover, get out of there so that you don't get lumped. Or simply just moving behind cover will give you at least the +2. So that's a good third action for squishy types of characters or character builds, I think. All right, I think that covers taking cover, right? You spend an action, you got to have some sort of cover or something you can get behind nearby, or you can drop prone if you want to. And depending on the type of cover you are behind, it'll give you bonuses more or less to your AC. If you're able to take greater cover because you have something good to hide behind, that can boost you up to +4 on those reflex saves, stealth, armor classes, pretty good deal. So there you go. I think a lot of this, especially if you're playing theater of the mind, is going to be the bigger challenge. If you're playing on a grid with some miniatures and some terrain, or like I play on Tailspire with 3D, immersive environment, you can see if you have cover or not. It's easy as a GM to say, yeah, that's standard cover. If you get behind that, take cover, you'll have greater cover. Or hey, yeah, you're only getting lesser cover there because it's not really that great. The other thing I didn't see here, can you increase lesser to standard cover? I don't think so. Let me just double check on that one. If cover is especially light, typically when it's provided by its lesser cover, a creature's standard cover or greater cover can attempt to use stealth, but not. Yeah, so it doesn't seem like you can use the take cover action to bump it up to standard cover, the lesser. Anyway, that's the only thing I would, be a little bit curious about because maybe a character might be able to, the circumstance might be able to warrant lesser becoming standard cover with a take cover action. I could see that being a possibility. Anyway, leave that up to the player to convince you. All right. Again, hopefully this was some informational, useful stuff for you. And this was, like I said, the last one in this series of 13 actions, although there's technically 16 total, but I made 13 videos out of it. Put together a whole playlist of these for you to take a look at. So each one's 10, 15 minutes long, so it's not going to take you that long to get through them all. But let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, etc., etc., and look forward to seeing the next video. I want to get back into more some hardcore home brewing stuff, lore creation, that sort of thing. All right, have a good day.